Welcome to Remnant 101, the City on a Hill Church. I'm Associate Pastor Benji Lalea. God's remnant recognizes the abominations as exactly that, abominations. I'm going to be reading from Ezekiel chapter 9, beginning with the verses that we've read several times before, verses 3 and 4. It says, "Now the glory of the God of Israel had gone up from the cherub where it had been, and to the threshold of the temple. And he called to the man clothed with linen, who had the writer's inkhorn at his side. And the Lord said to him, Go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and put a mark on the foreheads of the men who sigh and cry over all the abominations that are done within it." And I also want to read verse 5, which says, "To the others he said in my hearing, Go after him through the city and kill. Do not let your eye spare, nor have any pity." As we've said many times before, these verses are a message on separation and a foundation of a prophecy spoken by my grandfather around 30 years ago that we now know is for us today. God is marking heads of those who sigh and cry at the abominations happening in his house today, because there are many. As my grandfather said, when the battle rages, only those who are marked will be saved. But here's the thing about that. You can't properly sigh and cry unless you recognize the things happening in God's house as abominations. You can't look at them and say in your heart things like, what's wrong with that? For example, a Christian following and supporting a Buddhist monk and then walking into God's house for church a couple of days later thinking everything is normal is an abomination. Because if you know God's word, you know he doesn't allow mixture. King Josiah knew that, and he destroyed everything that displeased God. I'm not talking about what the monks themselves are doing. They have nothing to do with God's house. But you can't look at what those monks are doing and say, their march is all about peace. Didn't Jesus come to bring peace on earth? Isn't God all about love? That is how you not only don't see an abomination, but you become a part of the abomination. That's why the separation part is so important. Holiness only desires to please God. That's the key to seeing what's going on in the church world and saying, this is an abomination. No wonder the prophet said destruction is on its way. That's why everything has to start with holiness. Now, I do want to remind you that with all these abominations going on in the church world, like with the following of those monks, for example, everyone participating in those things, they think they're doing okay. They think that something positive is going on. They think that steps are being taken in the right direction. You don't think that the people during the time of Ezekiel, before the destruction came, thought that they were doing okay as well? You don't think that the people during the time of Noah thought that they were doing okay? We talk about those people with nothing but disdain and disgust whenever we tell the story of Noah, but those people thought that they were good. Same thing happening in the time of Noah, Ezekiel, is happening today. But you only recognize them as abominations if you're looking with eyes of holiness. When you understand what the Bible teaches us about being holy, pleasing God before anything else, you can see that God's house, all throughout the planet, yes, God's house, is full of things that don't please him. And the thing that I want all of us to take note of that's significant about the people who sigh and cry at the abominations happening in God's house is that the disgust that those people feel about the abominations, it has to heavily outweigh any sadness that they would feel for losing people, even people close to them, that did not sigh and cry over those abominations. Remember, God said, verse 5, "Do not let your eye spare, nor have any pity." If you remember anything from this video, please remember that. We're aiming to bring Jesus back. We don't have time for earthly emotions and desires. We have to look with the eyes of holiness. Only then will we sigh and cry, because abominations are what we're seeing. That will get God's attention. And as Revelation 22 says, that will get us the mark of his name on our forehead. And that's exactly what we're going to be doing. God bless you.